I'm Marian Berry. Welcome to Christian Concerns. One of our great concerns is that we should be able to understand the Bible correctly. And so today we're going to look at the book of Daniel, at the structure of the book, and we're going to take a perspective that will give us a bird's eye view. First of all, what is in the book of Daniel? There are stories, such as Daniel in the lion's den. There is the story of the three Hebrew worthies as they were cast into the burning fiery furnace. And there's the story of the handwriting on the wall in the palace of Belshazzar. There are also chapters that give us historical reference points. For example, in chapter 1, the nation of Israel is captured by the Babylonians. In chapter 5, the Babylonians are captured by the Medo-Persians. And in chapter 8, the Medo-Persians fall under Grecia. So as we look at these historical references, we are brought to view also the four visions of Daniel. The prophet was taken in vision, and 4 times he saw the history of the world from his day down to the end of time. Daniel, the whole book of Daniel is actually a story of the rise and fall of nations. And so we're going to look at the 4 visions in some detail, seeing how they align with each other and how they are interlocking. And it will give us an interesting view of, by using the chart, it will give us an interesting view of these 4 lines of prophecy, 4 outlines. Let us look at the chart. We have 4 outlines here of the history of the world from the days of Daniel right down to the end of time. First of all, the symbolism in chapter 2 is found to be that of an image. It had a head of gold, which represented Babylon, arms of silver, which represented Medo-Persia. It had a belly and thighs of brass, which represented Grecia. There were iron legs, which represented Rome. And then Rome broke up into the nations of Europe. And then he is carried in time clear down to the great stone which was to represent the kingdom of Jesus Christ, established on earth. Now we'll look at the second vision. Here in the second vision we find that instead of an image there are 4 beasts. And the first is a lion that has eagle's wings. And if you go to New York City, you will see that the lion is pictured there on the Ishtar gates of Babylon. Everyone who went in and out of Babylon knew exactly who the winged lion was, that it represented Babylon. So you see the 2 visions start with the same empire, Babylon. Then here, Medo-Persia, represented by the 2 arms, is represented by a bear that has the 2 sides. Then there is Grecia that follows, and Rome. And then at last we have the nations of Europe, the 10 toes, or the feet of iron and clay mixture, and the 10 toes are the same as the indescribable beast that has the 10 horns. And then one additional feature is brought to view. You see there are 4 empires in the first vision, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Grecia, and Rome. Then in the second vision there are those same 4 empires, but an additional empire is added, one that reigned over Europe for 1,260 years. So we come back down, and at last it says that the saints receive the kingdom. The kingdom is given to the saints of the Most High. That is in alignment here also. Then we come to the third vision. Here he sees a ram and a he-goat. By the time he wrote this vision, Babylon had passed off the scene, so we begin with Medo-Persia, and it shows Grecia overcoming Medo-Persia, and then immediately he begins to speak of the little horn that is mentioned here in chapter 7, and it says that the investigative judgment begins also by the 2300-day timeline, and then it says that the little horn is broken without hand. It brings us also to the end of time. In the 4th vision down here, we see that the Daniel 11 starts out with the kings of Medo-Persia. It said there would be 3 more kings in Medo-Persia. There would be a 4th king that would stir up all the realm against Grecia. And from there on, we have the story of the rise and fall of kings in perfect sequence and continuity all the way down to where it speaks of the last king, who it says he will come to his end and none shall help him. And as we look at these visions, we see that there is an alignment. And this is very important to understanding these visions correctly, because we align Babylon in the first and second vision. We align Medo-Persia, the 2 arms of the image with the 2 sides of the bear, with the 2 horns of the ram. And then there is Grecia, Alexander the Great, in the 3 visions, and the kings are also aligning right all through chapter 11. So we come right down through here to the time of the end and the end time, and we come right down. And so we are looking at these 4 visions. It's very important that we understand that these visions align, because if we take, for example, the ram and the he-goat and try to put them down here at the end of time, it destroys all the logic of what we are doing in prophetic exposition. So we want to be careful to keep each thing in its proper order within the interlocking 4 lines of prophetic history. Now, actually, prophecy is simply history written before it happens. And the prophecy is, the scripture is actually self-interpreting. And so it is either self-interpreting through the one book, Daniel and Revelation interpreting each other, or it is through the timelines and the lines of prophecy of outlines that are interlocking with each other. They interpret each other. Now we're going to talk a little bit here about the prophetic language of the book. You see, the book of Daniel is written in both literal and symbolic language. So we need to look at this very carefully. How will we approach the book? And so we're going to look at a hermeneutic rule. And the hermeneutic rule is found in the Great Controversy, page 599. We're going to let a prophet, if we can have this brought up on the screen, we'll look at the hermeneutic principle, which is called the literal approach. It says, the language of the Bible should be explained according to its obvious, that means its literal meaning, unless a symbol or figure is employed. Now, this is so important because the book of Daniel is written in both figurative and literal language. It's a very important rule because the parts of Daniel must be kept in context. If it's a literal context, we need to know that the whole of the text there, even the times that are mentioned, are literal. And if it is symbolic, we need to be very careful to use the year-day principle in order to interpret it correctly. Now, we need to look at another hermeneutic principle here, and it is from 2 Peter 1:20. It says, knowing this first. In other words, this is the first and the most important principle, that no prophecy, that is, no prophetic symbol, is of any private interpretation or to be decoded any other way than through the Scripture itself. Now, this does not mean that you don't have a right to make your own opinions regarding prophetic exposition. But you have no right to try to decode a prophetic symbol. And there's actually no committee, nor no church, nor denomination that has a right to decode the symbols of Scripture. They must be decoded by the Bible itself. And we'll keep that in mind as we continue to look through the book of Daniel.